have the right, to be grandmothers, to be mothers, to be aunties, and we're seeing far too often that our relatives, are not able to live that full circle of life, and their lives are taken from us very tragically. Every time we go out, we shouldn't be worried, am I next? That tells us that something's very wrong in this country, that we continue to die and experience violence at alarming rates.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Woo! Hi. We have the right to live. We have the right to be safe. We have the right to have our rights upheld. No fighting genocide. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No more stolen sisters. No more stolen sisters. Search the landfills. Search the...
And also the kind of war waged on Indigenous people to make us feel as if we are less than, that we deserve the kind of treatment that we get, and that the colonizers knows best. They know best the solutions for us, and they expect us to be happy with the pieces of crumbs that they throw at us and pat us on the head and say, go away now. They're happy when they can brutalize land defenders, like the Wet'suwet'en Nation, where pregnant Molly was brutalized by this special force that's in the RCMP, designed specifically for Indigenous land defenders. So they still want our land. Your government still wants to take away our human rights. They want us to assimilate and forget who we are. How many of you have children that are going to school, in high school or elementary school? How many of you learned that Indigenous people were so violent? They were savages. You can raise your hand. It's okay. I learned that too. I was kind of thinking, really? We were that bad? But we're not. We're good people. We're good people who have been through a lot. It has taken over 500 years for the world to recognize that Indigenous peoples on Turtle Island and in the Americas have human rights. For a long time, and we still are under the Indian Act, we are treated as wards of the state. And that our trust fund, taken from the minerals and resources on our traditional territory, is what funds our community services. And as Sarah said, there has been numerous commissions. The Vienne Commission here in Quebec that was made after 34 or 36 women in Val d'Or made human rights complaints against the Sutex Quebec for sexual abuse. Nothing happened to them. Nothing happened to them because it's Indigenous women. The Picton trial were mostly Indigenous women that were murdered and missing. And Human Rights Watch wrote a report to talk about the complicity of the policing authorities in the issue of murdered and missing Indigenous women in the province of British Columbia. We are at a point where we're saying, we've jumped through all your hoops. We've done everything you've asked us. We've tried peaceful means, and you're still not listening to us. You are still there at the same spot that we were 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And that we are just supposed to accept Canadian law. Well, I'll tell you, Canadian law is irrelevant to our Indigenous law. Quebec law and our language law is irrelevant to our Indigenous laws. And I say this not because out of disrespect. I say this because we are at a tipping point right now where only 3 of the languages spoken today on Turtle Island or in Canada will still be spoken at the end of this century. That's how endangered Indigenous languages are. And for Indigenous women, we are the ones who pass on that language, as do the men. But for Indigenous women, we have been struggling for so long. If it wasn't for the work of Indigenous women like Sandra Lovelace, Mary Tuax Early, there would be no changes to the Indian Act. We would still be in this archaic form of governance, if you can call it that, an authoritarian kind of governance that afflicts our people so that when someone goes murdered or missing, the police do not take it seriously. And at every single vigil, I have to remember this woman because she sticks out in my mind as one of the first stories I heard. A 19-year-old from Manitoba, Helen Betty Osborne, going to school in Winnipeg, was brutally raped and beaten and killed. And for 10 years, the policing authorities knew who did this. But because it was the norm that any man who violated an Indigenous woman could go with impunity, they did nothing. Imagine if Helen Betty Osborne were alive today, maybe she'd be retired, but she could have fulfilled her dream to be a teacher. And that's what this is about, is fulfilling those hopes and dreams of the women who, because they are Indigenous and because they are a woman, they are attacked. And we are the disposable people in this society, and that's got to change. This is 2024 now. It's got to change. It's high time that it changed. And my friend here, Bridget Tolley, went, I won't speak on your behalf, but I just know that this is one of the stories too that has hit my heart, where a Quebec officer hit Bridget's mother and nothing happened because the police investigate themselves. And that's a conflict of interest. And then Shannon and Maisie, who also went missing and have never been found. The women in the landfill in Manitoba. Nobody cares about that, but in Toronto they did that for missing people. So why can't we do it for Indigenous people? Because our rights are human rights. I want to thank you all for coming out here tonight. This is winter. This is a normal winter we're having, by the way, for today. I would be remiss if I did not mention our Palestinian sisters. Our Palestinian sisters and their families, their children, their husbands, their brothers, their fathers, their grandfathers, who have gone missing and murdered as well. Pregnant women who do not finish their term because of a war. Mothers who cannot nurse their children, their babies, because they are too weak, because they are starving. This is what they did to Indigenous women. This is what they did to our people. This is the history of Canada. This is the history of the United States. It's the history of the Americas, and those European bastards overseas, they're also responsible. So when we get together today on Valentine's Day, remember that we can change it. We have the power to change this, to make someone else's lives better, for love, for compassion. And as the Haudenosaunee people believe, in order to have peace, you have to have respect. You have to have the strength and the courage to sit there and listen and be in uncomfortable situations and discussions. You have to respect that other person's dignity and that right to their life, to be safe, to be secure. And you have to have compassion for the journey that where they've come from in the past and where they are today. And so that we can have a future where there are no more warmongers hitting our people, hitting our women, and hitting our children. And that we should put this in the education system, that violence is not part of our culture. Violence comes from hurt people, but also violence comes from sick-minded people. And so let's make this a beautiful Valentine's Day and lift our arms up to all those families who have risked life and limb to bring this story to you and to make this noticeable, and pressure your politicians to make this national action plan led by Indigenous women and their families. And let's raise our hands also to our sisters in Palestine who are suffering so much today. Love for them and love for all of you and all our sisters who are murdered and missing. Yaukoa, thank you for the organizers for once again inviting me. Panigawan again.
No pride in genocide! No pride in genocide! No pride in genocide! No pride in genocide! No justice, no peace! 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 No more stolen sisters! 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 Are we going to stay quiet? Are we gonna lay down and let them take us down? I refuse to stay quiet and I refuse to lay down. I will continue winning. I will continue screaming. I will continue living. No pride in genocide.
No pride in genocide!
No pride in genocide.
No pride in genocide!
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
I'm so happy and honored to be in, the territory of my relatives, and I just wanted to hold each and every one of you up for joining here today for such an important event. But I wanted to start with a moment of silence to remember all our sisters, our two-spirit and gender diverse relatives who've lost their lives to violence. Thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm the chair of the National Family and Survivor Circle. Our group is made up of Indigenous women and two-spirit and gender diverse people from across Canada. We've been participating in the development of the National Action Plan and the implementation plan. It's very slow moving, it's not moving fast enough, and we know that as our relatives are dying all around us and experiencing violence at alarming rates. So I wrote a few things, but I just like to go to them for reference to make sure I'm not missing any important things that I wanted to share with each and every one of you. I just firstly wanted to acknowledge, many of you are gathered here because you've been deeply impacted by the national crisis and the genocide of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and two-spirit and gender diverse people. So I send my love to each and every one of you as I send you light. It's not an easy journey. Each one of our relatives that we've lost represents, a light that has been taken from our family, from our community and our nations. And we cannot allow that to continue anymore. It's going to take each and every one of us here to call out all levels of government and to challenge them, for the lack of political will that they have. They have the resources, they have the, they have the political will, but they're not utilizing that political will to champion the implementation of the 231 calls for justice that we need as Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit and gender diverse people in this country. We have the right to live, we have the right to dignity, we have the right to justice, and we have the right to safety. And the work that each and every one of us are doing who are championing change, we're doing it for this generation and for many generations to come. The violence that we continue to experience is horrific violence. Every time we go out, we feel unsafe, because it's basically, we're continuously violated by the state. They have the tools and the resources to protect us, but they're not acting fast enough to, save our lives and to protect us. It's really about upholding our rights, as rights holders. It's often forgotten that as Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people that we're rights holders. We have inherent rights, we have treaty rights, and we have human rights. And continuously our rights are being violated. And we have to really, stand together collectively and raise our voices. For our allies who are here, thank you so much for being here. We need you, and we need you to challenge those spaces that you're in, that are perpetuating the systemic and structural racism which is killing us as Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people in this country. And we have the right to access our culture. We have the right to learn our language. We have the right to protect our lands and our waters. We have the right, to be grandmothers, to be mothers, to be aunties. And we're seeing far too often that our relatives, are not able to live that full circle of life, and their lives are taken from us very tragically from a young age. And it's like, right across this country, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and there's a lot happening in Winnipeg. Our women are being disposed of, and one of the platforms for the PC government in Manitoba, they were platforming on, the landfill, which is, the most horrific violence that I've seen any political leader do in this country. It was utterly disgusting to observe what was going on, with the former premier of Manitoba. But we have some hope. We have the first Indigenous premier in Manitoba, and I know that I've had a lot of my sisters, in this province of Quebec who, continue to experience the oppression from the different levels of government in this province. So I stand with you, and I continuously raise my voice in challenging those systems of oppression, because that's what is killing us, is oppression and systemic and structural racism. We need policy and legislative reform, to really hold those oppressive and racist systems accountable. And this is why, recently there was a meeting in Ottawa that there was a report done by the Special Ministerial Representative Jennifer Moore-Rattray on Call for Justice 1.7 for the ombudsperson and oversight. And without, it's a real big focus on accountability. And without those accountability mechanisms, we're not going to see a lot of change. Each and every one of us here has to demand accountability, because we have, I always say this, we have the right to live. We have the right to feel safe. Every time we go out, we shouldn't be worried, am I next? That tells us that something's very wrong in this country, that we continue to die and experience violence at alarming rates. But I believe, I always have hope, but I know that that hope has to be backed by action by all levels of government, to do those policy and legislative reforms, to provide long-term sustainable funding to Indigenous organizations, that support, protect Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people in this country, and to really, really get loud about our inherent rights, our treaty rights, as Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people, to really promote that we're rights holders, and that our voices need to be at those tables as impacted family members and survivors with lived experience and expertise, and Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people. That we deserve that equity and that equality and that decision making at tables. We should be the the authors of our destiny as Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit and gender diverse people. We shouldn't have old misogynistic politicians writing our narratives for us, because we know what we want, we know what we need, and we know how to do it. Thank you.
Everyone is ignoring our families.
Nobody's around. Nobody invites us to meetings. They had a event on Parliament Hill today for the Chalk River, the nuclear in the Chalk River. They had it on Parliament Hill because they don't have no communication with families. 33 years, people. And we're still where we are. We're still fighting to be acknowledged. We're still fighting to have our cases reinvestigated, looked at. The cousin of the cop that killed my mother 20 years ago is now the chief of police at Kittigon-Zibi. It's a shame. It's a damn shame the way we're getting treated. And this is not right. We don't want to be used as an election issue like surge to landfill. I haven't heard anything since the Manitoba election. I don't want the red dress alert to be used as an election issue. The government has no data on how many people are missing. The government has no data on how many people go missing every day. It's us. It's us, the families, that know how many people go missing every day. Do you know how many red dress alerts we will get in one day? Does anybody have any idea? No, because nobody has no data. Not even the government. And it's going to take years and years for them to do these recommendations. I say no more recommendations. We wanted action. We wanted our cases solved. We want the government accountability from the government. We want accountability from the police. Enough is enough. It's decades we're here. Over 3 decades. And we're still asking for help. No more recommendations. No more meetings. And no more stolen sisters.
All right, miigwech nakopmik. That's right. No more stolen sisters. So I'm gonna put the spotlight on Traveling Spirit Drum. We'll listen to a few songs from them.
justice, no peace. No more stolen sisters. No pride in genocide. No pride in genocide. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No more stolen sisters. Make some noise. Now make some noise. No justice, no peace. No more stolen sisters. No more stolen sisters. Stolen lives on stolen land. Stolen lives on stolen land. No pride in genocide. No more stolen sisters. No more stolen sisters. Stolen lives on stolen land.
Stolen lives on stolen land. Stolen lives on stolen land.
No pride in genocide.
No pride in genocide.
No pride in genocide.
No pride in genocide.
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
No justice.